this point, they look like little teeny weeny. They look like, okay. They look like, I don't want to say it. What can I say they look like? They look like basically sperm cells.
The revolution will not be televised, and be no rerun, brothers and sisters. The revolution will be live.
Can you dig it? Can you dig it? Can you dig it?
What is up, all you stone cold, superfly, stylistic, fish keeping funkadelics? You watching Aquafunk Aquatics with me, Aquafunk. And today's video is going to be on raising angelfish fry to adulthood. There's not a whole lot of videos going into exactly what to expect. How long does it take? What do I have to do? When do I call? When are they good enough to sell or get rid of, and all that stuff? When are they past the danger zone? And that's what I'm talking about today. So let me start with the moment they become free swimmers. Okay, normally I'm be 100% honest. I have yet to see my fish pop up from the bottom of the tank as wigglers into free swimmers. It always happens while I'm at work or overnight. You don't want to feed them until their egg sac is gone. Okay, they're still eating off their egg sac even as free swimmers, and usually it takes 8 to 12 hours before that egg sac has dissipated. Then they're going to be hungry. So what you want to do is you want to guesstimate the right time. You're like, if I went to sleep at this time, so 8 to 12 hours. However you figure it out. I'm sure you can do that. Okay, so what do you feed them? You want to feed them newly hatched brine shrimp. Yo, while editing this, I realized I left out a very important part of information. Very important. While feeding your baby angelfish fry, you want to make sure their bellies stay golden with newly hatched brine. You'll see a little bulge of gold underneath them, and that's their belly. It needs to stay orangey gold at all times. Also, feed them as much as they can eat until you start seeing extra brine shrimp left over. Once you see extra brine shrimp left over, you know next time to cut back a little bit on the shrimp. On with the show! Now I'm going to be doing a video on hatching out newly hatched brine shrimp pretty soon, actually. Real easy to do, but it's tedious. I hate doing it. You want to feed them newly hatched brine shrimp, ideally, until they're old enough to eat frozen brine shrimp. Let me get real with you guys, okay? Raising fish in general, you hear these people saying that you got to do this and you got to do it this way, you got to do it that way, and a lot of that stuff is in a perfect world. This is what I say. You got to find a schedule that works for you and the fish. You know what I'm saying? So I feed them newly hatched brine shrimp for a week and a half to 2 weeks. You know, after that, I feed them crushed up flake food that has a heavy protein content. They need that protein, and I do that until they can start eating frozen. Even after they eat frozen, I like to do half and half. So, but the protein is what you're looking for. Now you're feeding them at least 4 times a day. 4 times or better. Some people like to do it like 8 times a day. Now, I don't have time. I'm at work. I don't have time to space out 8 times a day. So I do 4 times a day. I do it when I get home. When I wake up from work, when I get home from work, a couple hours later, and right before I go to bed. And because I'm doing that heavy feeding, I gotta do heavy water changes because you are dirtying up the tank. So the first 2 weeks, this is what I do. The first 2 weeks, I do substantial water changes every day. 80% water changes every day. But after that, honestly, they're past the danger zone and they're pretty strong as fish. Whatever fish that we're going to die off, probably have, because let's be honest, not every fish can survive. Some of the fish are just destined to die off at an early age, and what you're left with is a pretty strong strong fish after the first 2 weeks. You've been feeding them right. You've been doing the water changes. You got that temperature up to about 85 degrees. The reason why I put the water temperature 85 degrees is this way they grow faster at a higher temperature. After the first 2 weeks is when I start changing it up with large water changes. I go down about right there every 2 days. I continue feeding them 4 times a day. A mixture of crushed up flakes. And I can buy, now you can buy frozen baby brine shrimp, and I do that. So I don't have to, I'm no longer dealing with hatching out brine shrimp because I'm doing the frozen stuff. And it takes about 2 weeks for them to be able to switch over that. Some people can do it earlier than that, but I just feel like the first 2 weeks are very critical in their stages, their growth. You'll notice that, I noticed that once I do that, I feed them the way I have been, they start turning into angelfish faster. They originally, the free swimmers, they look like, for lack of a better word, I mean, this is an educational channel in my opinion, so I don't mind using the word. They look like little sperm cells, or actually large sperm cells. Now, if you feed them heavy on protein, they start getting that diamond, that triangular shaped look. I noticed that when I fed them, first bites, if they even ate it at all, which I haven't had luck with that at all, it takes a little longer for them to get that angelfish look. So now they're growing. This is the boring part. This is the tedious part. You're doing water changes every 2 days, every day, every 2 days. You're feeding them all the time, and they're growing. But they're not growing as fast as they did when they were eggs to free swimmers. They're growing. They're making decent progress, but it's not overnight. I usually take 3 months before I deem them worthy enough to be into the world. So that's 3 months of doing the same things on a regular basis. It's not the glamorous part of the job at all. Now, at about 3 months, there should be, at least most of them at least, should be a quarter size. I'm talking about their body. They do grow at separate rates, so you might want to think about getting, well, you're definitely going to want to think about getting a bigger aquarium. 40 breeder is always the best one to have. And because they grow at different rates, the bigger ones will pick on the smaller ones, so you start switching them over, big and medium, and leaving the small ones in 10 gallons to grow a little bit bigger so they can go into 40. Now at this point, you're looking at fins, because they should all be very healthy and lively. So now you're looking at fins, and the reason why I'm saying you're looking at the fins and the body, and they're making sure everything's in the right place, 10 fingers, 10 toes, is because you have to think about culling. To be a responsible fish breeder, putting this bloodline into the world, you don't want to weaken the bloodline by putting out a bloodline that has a deformity. So while you might be able to sell, I might be able to sell angelfish that have a slight deformity and nobody will ever notice, when they have fry of their own, that deformity might multiply and be even more deformed, and so on and so forth, to the point where there's just an epidemic of tainted bloodline out there. So as a responsible angelfish breeder, I feel like keeping the bloodline of the fish that I put out in the world as being a strong bloodline to mix with some of these more tainted ones to strengthen them up is important. So you want to look for things like fins are in the right place, pointing in the right direction. The body is exactly, what you're looking for in an angelfish. Now, if this slightly oval shape and stuff like that, I would still put them out there to be sold, but I wouldn't keep them to breed myself. In fact, what I'm looking for, these are yellow koi angels. Some people might call them yellow Pariba koi, but I think all that's unnecessary. They're yellow koi angels. What I'm looking for is an even amount of black to yellow. Actually, if I could have 1/3 black, 1/3 yellow, 1/3 white, that'd be great. I'm trying to get to that point, but I have yet to see it. I try and get as much yellow as possible because I feel like visually, that's what people think of when they hear yellow koi. Is a lot of yellow in them, mixed with white with black spots. So my personal picks will be the biggest one to keep as future breeders, with perfect fins, lively, and have as much yellow on them as possible. Now at some point I'm going to have to get some new bloodline in there because they're all brothers and sisters, and inbreeding, with inbreeding you have you're promoting good traits, but you're also promoting bad traits. So that's what you have to look forward to if you decide you want to do this. And I hope that this has helped out some, even a little bit, you know. Look at that. Look at that. See how they're all coming? They just want to eat. That's all these guys want to do, is they just want to eat. See that one right there? That will be a future breeder. Yes, it will. Alright, so look, until next time, you guys take care of yourself, take care of your family, and take care of your fishes. Let's say 12. Let's say, what did I say, 8 to 10? 8 to 12? Ending a video is difficult. Like, you don't know when to stop. At some point, you just keep talking and talking and talking.